Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Q&A session for the S-Factory application process. I'm going to start talking about why the program started, why we built this program in the first place last year, because some people have a few doubts with that, and I think my story will let you clear those doubts. So first of all, Startup Chile is an organization. It is a government-run program, okay? It's a program from the Chilean Ministry of Economy through an agency called Corfo, which is Corporación de Fomento. Basically, it's like a development agency within the Ministry of Economy. So what this agency does, it creates different lines of financing and funding for entrepreneurs and for technology-related companies and businesses, okay? So 5 years ago, a little bit more, in between 5 to 6 years ago, Startup Chile started as a program to attract entrepreneurs from all over the world to change the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Chile. Back in those days, Chilean entrepreneurs were not globally minded. We used to think a lot about very local solutions and not very scalable ones. Chileans didn't think that they were capable of competing in a global scale, and therefore there were not companies built with a globally minded strategy back then, not many of them, okay? And becoming an entrepreneur wasn't the preferred career path for most people. Nowadays, almost 6 years after, I could say that the entrepreneurial ecosystem is very strong. You can see every time more and more entrepreneurs, and people in their own careers are choosing to become entrepreneurs, or at least give it a try to see if they can build successful companies. And that's why Startup Chile is to help those people, to support them in this path into becoming a successful entrepreneur. This type of investment, it's called, it's very risky, okay? So it's risk investment, okay? So the government spends some part of the funds into supporting this type of companies, and one of the lines that they do this from is Startup Chile. The difference in between Startup Chile and different other funding lines is that it is open for people from all over the world. Why? Because we needed to change the local mindset and we needed to boost the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So we thought, okay, why don't we bring the best people, but not just the best ones here in Chile, but from the rest of the world. That's why Startup Chile is a global program, and it attracts people from outside of Chile, whereas people from Chile building startups for a period of time. Within Startup Chile, we have 3 funding lines. One of them is the S-Factory. It's a pre-acceleration program. Well, we support with around $14,000 equity-free funding. That means 10 million pesos. Equity-free means that by the time that you incorporate the company, we don't take an equity on that. We don't take a piece of the company. It's completely yours. But you might be wondering, why are we building this type of programs, and why we're giving funding if we're not having equity in return? The fact is that we do have equity, and the equity comes in social welfare and also economic development for our country. Because we know if that we support the right people, they're going to be able to build sustainable companies that are going to grow from Chile, and that creates a lot of different externalities. For example, workforce. We have a better workforce in our own country, people being hired, and being able to boost our economy not only through the natural resources that now it's so intense and based on that, our economy, but as well, for example, in services and products that could be expanded to the outside of the borders of our country. So I mentioned the S-Factory because it's the one that you're concerned about at the moment, but we also have other 2 lines. The second line is SEED. That program is the first one, and the one that everybody or most people know Startup Chile about, because the S-Factory and the third one that I'm going to talk to you about later were only built last year, whereas the SEED program, the Startup Chile SEED program, was the initial one, the one that we started with. It was built 6 years ago. And in that program, we give around $30,000 equity free. That means 20 million pesos. And it's for startups that are in a more validated stage. They have already done some market validation, or they already have sales, for example. Some of them already raised capital, and they need some extra push to take the company to the next level. And the third program is the Scale program. That program is for companies incorporated in Chile that wish to scale more their operations and scale to other regions of the world, having a company based in Chile. Okay, so we have the S Factory, it's the first part of the timeline, of the startup timeline. Then we have the Seed program, and then we have Scale. In the S Factory, we created this program with a different focus because we wanted to have more women involved in our core program, our Seed program. This is the biggest program. We accept in between 80 to 100 startups each batch, whereas in TSF and Scale, we accept between 15 to 30. TSF, we accept around 30, and Scale's a little bit shorter with around 15 to 20, okay? So in this core program, in the Seed program, we needed to have more diversity, and women were not being part of it. That's why we created the S Factory, so that we can help women that just have an idea or that have a small prototype, a small version of what they are building, to get funded, take the idea to a working MVP or something that can actually be validated in the market, so that they can transition into the Seed program, where it's much stronger and validated hypotheses, companies that are already incorporated, or they have come a longer way than just an idea, okay? That's why we build the S Factory program. I'm going to move on into some of the questions that we have been receiving, because after all, this is a Q&A, but I wanted to show you what's the timeline and why we built all the different programs that we have nowadays. So first of all, as I mentioned, the startup, the phase that you can apply with your startup, it's an idea or a basic prototype. If you already have sales, if your company's it's working already, if you've raised funds, for example, you are a little bit like overqualified for the S Factory. So if that's the case, I encourage you to apply to the Seed program, which we open applications next month in August. Okay, the S Factory is for people that just have an idea, they haven't implemented something, they just did some market research and interviews with potential customers, for example, or their hardware idea, they've managed to do a prototype or even a mock-up. That's the phase that we're trying to help, okay? The program is global, as all the Startup Chile programs. That is why I'm talking to you right now in English, because we know and we believe that English is a technical skill very important to help companies expand their borders to different regions. And we believe that pushing yourself, if you don't know much English, we believe that pushing yourself to learn more, it's going to help you a lot within the different networks that you can approach for your own startup. There have been other questions about actually how the grant is giving, if you need an estimate budget, when it's giving, etc. To give you an idea, the only way that you will be able to receive the money is after signing a contract, and that contract is fully it's fully ready in terms of what our laws, our government laws require to do so. Okay, so given that, it's only once you are here. Okay, we don't send wire transfers to the people coming. We don't do that. Just when you're here, we were able to give you the grant because you signed a contract. Okay, all the expenses before that, you can file them as part of the budget that you will be giving. For example, if you need to buy a ticket to come to Chile, of course, you can file as an expense. All the expenses related to the visas. Sometimes you need to do a police background check or a medical background check. All those expenses, you can present them as valid expenses as part of the budget that you already will be having if you get accepted in the S Factory, okay? Given that the time that you arrive and the time that the money is given to you, because there's certain processes that we need to follow regarding Chilean law, it's not immediate. It's not that you get here and you receive the money right away. We wish our processes would be like that, but it's not the case because it's taxpayers' money. So there are different stages that we need to follow in order to give the grant to the participants. So we always recommend to bring in between 2,000 to 4,000 US dollars, so that you can have enough for the first month to pay for your rent, to pay for your food, transportation, etc., and also to get your idea running. If you need to hire people, for example, so we always recommend to have around 3,000 and $3,000 per month. Okay. Especially if, for example, you're renting an apartment, sometimes they ask you for a month in warranty in advance. Okay, so you'll have to pay that. You'll get that back because it's just a warranty in case you break the apartment, but I'm sure it won't be the case. Other questions that we have been receiving is what are the benefits of participating at the S Factory? So first of all, what are the benefits of participating of any of the Startup Chile programs? And the most important one is the global community. Through our programs, there have been people from more than 70 countries, 70 different nationalities. Imagine how big and how broad your networks are going to be after going through these type of programs. That's the most important thing. Also, the funding that you already know, but in terms of the different networks that you'll be creating, you'll be part of different activities and interactions that will help you and get to the right people that can help you boost your company. TSF, as we call it, the S Factory, the short for it is TSF. Every TSF participant is paired with a mentor, an entrepreneur that will help the team reach the different goals that they have set for their companies. We have another question here. If if you have already hired a freelance developer, should you name that person in the application? So the application, think about the founders, okay, not the employees, because it's the people that are founding the company are an integral part of the team. Employees can come and go, and especially if it's a freelancer or an outsourcing, you may work with that person for a month or two, and then it's gone. So what I suggest is just put the people that are part of your team and the founders, okay? Remember, the founder, the team leader, the person that you apply as a team leader is a woman, okay? This program is focused on female-led startups. That means startups that have at least one female in the core team, in the founding team, okay? And she is the one that must apply as a team leader. Be careful when you do that in the application. We are open and we actually like having mixed teams because we want diversity of different ways of seeing things. So that's why we can have teams with one female leader and one male team member. But if you just have a female team member, that's great as well. No worries. But just to be clear, the team does not necessarily means that the entire team must be women. Just one of the founders, and she applies as the team leader. So the due date for the application is July 18th at 23:59 hours Chilean time. Okay, make sure you look at the different time zones and you apply on time. Most of the time, something might happen with the platform because we have more than hundreds of applications at the same time, and most people wait to the last minute to do so. So please do it ahead of time, do it on the 17th, so they make sure that you have the entire 18 to fix things and possible bugs or problems that you might face. But try to schedule and apply on the 17th. The platform is closed after that, and no other applications are going to be received. We won't receive applications through email or through other channels, so be careful with the timing. The results were going to be published mid-August, and the program starts on October 3rd. We required for the team leader to be exclusively dedicated to this. Okay, so the female founder is the one that is exclusively dedicated to this. That means not working in another company, not even part-time, because we're benefiting the people that are taking the risk to build another company. So those are the ones that should be rewarded, not the ones that are taking just half of the risk. Okay, so we ask exclusive dedication for the female founder. Other questions are related in between if you need a recommendation letter. Yes. Okay, my marketing team is asking me that please, when you do your questions, use the hashtag subwebinar. Okay, it's hashtag SUP as Startup Chile webinar. I'll continue. So in terms of recommendations, you will need in between 1 and 3 at the most. Okay. Yes, you will need recommendations. You just provide a link to the person that is recommending you, and that person can answer directly in the platform. You will not be able to submit your application until that person has fully submit their recommendation. So please do it ahead of time. Call that person, check if they actually send it over, because worst case scenario, you would be at 11:30 at night trying to submit, and you won't be able to do so. And probably if that person doesn't answer, you'll get no chances to submit. Okay, so do it ahead of time. Selection criteria, we have divided into two big units. One is the team and the founder, and the other is the product itself. In terms of the product, it's very important that you do a lot of research on what is the core of the problem. Okay, the most important thing and why a problem is worth solving and why you're going to build a business out of it. Remember that we're building companies here. Companies must have a business model in the long term. I know that probably most of you don't have a business model at the moment. That's okay, it's part of the process. But you need to have a valid problem that somebody's willing to pay a solution to solve that. Okay, so go to the essence and the core of the problem. Most of the times it's just one problem. Do not overcomplicate things, okay? When business gets started, they're easy, they're simple. Once they scale, they start to get a little bit more complex. And the other part is the team. How qualified is the team to develop this solution that they're proposing? Are there true leaders, etc. We take a lot into account of what the team is, because we know that sometimes companies and ideas don't necessarily work, not maybe for market reasons, or even it's just not feasible. But we know if that there is the right team, they will be able to modify a few things and make it a success. So we make a bigger bet on the team. It's 50% of the application, just the team. Okay. So is it possible to apply with more than one startup idea? The answer is no, just one. Same thing is that we're rewarding people that are taking risk. So if you're applying with something, we make an assumption that you have already done all the research and you know that this is the idea that's going to work, or at least you believe that is at the moment. Okay, so just one idea per founder. Also, I have some questions here regarding regarding once the people are accepted. So for the foreign participants, we help you with the landing process. We have been doing this for 6 years. We connect with every consulate in the world, trying to help you get your visa so that you're in the program on time and don't have to do it just on your own. Okay, so we have a fast track system for the visas for the foreign participants, and there's an entire team taking care of that, the landing process, while in between the acceptance and the arrival to the program. So the landing team is the ones helping founders in the acceptance to the arrival in Chile. In the meantime, Chileans, we don't do much with them because they're already here, they already have their ID numbers, everything is settled for them. So we just focus on the landing for the foreigners. So I have some questions, other questions here in Twitter. Okay, so most startups be focused in Latin American market. Not necessarily, but ideally, yes, in the sense that Chile is a great platform for people that want to scale to the Latin American market. It's a good testing market, even though it's not that big, it's good to validate. And we see a lot of companies coming to Chile because of its economic stability, political stability, and the big, how you say, how ranked it is in between the international startup ecosystem. Chile, especially Santiago, is highly ranked as a good startup ecosystem. So if you want to build a startup focused in Latin America, this is the place to start, this is the place to validate, but of course, we want you to expand and grow from here. But if you have a startup that is just focused, for example, in the Indian market, it's not a reason for us to not take it, because we understand that this program gets richer from diversity. So we want to have people from different parts of the world making this ecosystem richer and making the different batches and the different interactions between entrepreneurs richer, as well as the networks as well. So the results are given mid-August. It's on August 12th. It's a Friday, I think. Those are the results given. This is the final application process for this year. The next application process is in March next year, okay? So March next year, and it starts in June next year. But for this year, this is the final round. And this round, the one that you will be applying now, starts on October 3rd. We have another one here. Just for the record, you can, we have an email called info@dsfactory.org. And we also have a Startup Chile contact email. It's contact@startupchile.org, where you can send all your questions, and the marketing and communication team are going to be responding every single one of them. So I have a question here. Can I apply if I'm a male founder? If you have a female founder and your female founder apply as a team leader, yes. If you're just all guys, I'm sorry, but this is not the program for you, okay? We're a program that wants to boost diversity in startups and technology, and that's why we're giving women the chance to join our program. Any more questions? This is the time. Well, remember all our networks you can send. Remember our email, info@dsfactory.org. They respond within less than 48 hours. I think at the moment less than 24. So make sure you do all your questions. If you do have questions, also try to do it in one email, so it's a more efficient communication in between the marketing and communications team and yourself. Yeah. Okay. No more questions? Okay, great. This was fun. Yes. Thank you for the team that prepared this. I like when we do things and we get interactions. Unfortunately, I just see the number of viewers. I don't see your faces. Just a few tips in terms of how to do the application. Try to share it with someone. See the misspelling. If your core is not English, ask a friend that they could review it. Even though your application will not be rejected if it is in Spanish, we highly recommend to do so, because this is an international program, and we understand that English it's a good skill for that. Plus, all the internal activities and the official communication channels for Startup Chile for all three programs are in English. So it's very important to do your best in that way. Also, if people get and understand actually what you're doing, sometimes when you express something, it's not necessarily very clear. And when you express it to someone else, you realize how clear or how not clear it is, and you can do different adjustments to make it the best out of it. Okay, so you can watch later this video on YouTube. Our link is YouTube/Startup Chile. Okay, you can see that, and you can also see there the webinar, right? Yes, you can see our webinar. We had 2 guests there, and we have now the Q&A. So thank you for your time. Hope that this was very useful for you, and hope to see a lot of you applying until next Monday. Bye.